The wind carried the smell of dust and cattle across the wide Montana plains as the sun dipped low behind the hills. The Bar W Ranch stretched farther than the eye could see. Miles of fencing, grazing herds, and empty land that once felt alive when a woman's laughter filled the old farmhouse. But that was years ago. William Carson, cattle baron, widower, and the toughest rancher for 3 counties, stood on the porch staring at the horizon like he always did at sunset. It was the one time of day he allowed himself to remember his wife. He hadn't smiled properly since. Inside the house, pans were stacked, dishes were unwashed, and the cupboards were almost bare. The ranch hands were complaining again. "Boss," his foreman Hank had said that morning, "you gotta hire a cook. This place is falling apart." So William posted a notice in town, WANTED, cook for big ranch, good pay, start immediately. He expected some stout old woman with decades of kitchen experience. He wasn't prepared for the stranger who stepped off the afternoon stagecoach. A young woman, clothes worn thin, hair pulled back in a messy braid, carrying a canvas bag on one shoulder, and a little boy clinging to the other hand. She looked tired, dusty, nervous, but there was a spark in her eyes that forced him to look twice. "Mr. Carson?" she asked softly. William frowned. "Yes." She swallowed. I'm here about the cook position." He blinked. "You." The boy stepped a little behind her leg, wide brown eyes peeking up at the tall rancher with a mixture of fear and curiosity. William crossed his arms. "You didn't mention a child." "I didn't have time," she said quietly. "We left home quickly." He heard the tremble in her voice. His instincts sharpened. He knew the sound of someone running from something. He nodded to her bag. "Is that all you've got?" "It's all we have left," she whispered. William looked at her, really looked at her, the frayed hem of her dress, the way her shoes were falling apart, the purple shadows beneath her eyes, the protective way she held her son close. She wasn't lying. She wasn't exaggerating. She was desperate. But she didn't beg. She didn't lower her eyes. She stood straight, as if she still had some fight left. "What's your name?" he asked finally. "Clara," she said, "and this is my son Toby." Toby clutched her skirt. "Mama, is this where we stay?" Clara's face crumpled just slightly. "If Mr. Carson lets us." William's chest tightened, a strange, unwelcome feeling. He thought of his late wife again, the softness she carried, the way she looked at people with gentleness even on the hardest days. Something in Clara reminded him of that same quiet strength. He exhaled heavily. "You ever cook for a ranch this size?" "No," Clara admitted, "but I can learn fast and I can work hard, harder than anyone." Toby tugged her hand. "Mama makes the best biscuits," he whispered loudly. Clara flushed with embarrassment. William's mouth twitched, almost a smile. "Almost." "All right," he said at last. "You can stay, both of you." The relief that washed over her face hit him straight in the chest. Inside the house, she got to work immediately. Within an hour, she had cleaned the sink, wiped the counters, and had a pot simmering on the stove. The smell of onions, herbs, and beef filled the kitchen, heartwarming, home-like, something he hadn't smelled since his wife passed. The ranch hands gathered near the windows, sniffing the air. "Boss," Hank whispered, "keep this one." William shot him a look. Hank lifted his hands, grinning. "Just saying." Clara cooked enough stew for 20 hungry men. When she set the pot in the center of the table, the cowboys actually cheered. Toby sat quietly in the corner, hands tucked behind his bowl, watching the men devour the food as if waiting to make sure they liked it. William sat at the head of the table and tasted the first spoonful. He froze. It tasted like memories, like warmth, like something his house and his heart had been missing for a long time. Clara watched him nervously from across the kitchen, hands twisting in her apron. He cleared his throat. It's good. She exhaled with such relief he almost laughed. When the meal was over, the men went back to work, leaving William alone with Clara and Toby. Toby approached him slowly, tiny boots tapping on the wooden floor. "Sir." William crouched to meet his eyes. "Yes. Thank you for letting us stay." The boy's voice was small, but it punched straight through him. He gently placed a hand on the boy's shoulder. "You're welcome." When he looked up, Clara was watching him, with gratitude, warmth, and something deeper she tried to hide. That night, after the boy fell asleep on a cot in the pantry, William walked Clara to the guest room she would stay in. "Clara." She looked up. "You're safe here," he said quietly. "No one's gonna harm you or your boy." Her eyes shimmered. She opened her mouth to speak, but emotion caught her voice. So she simply nodded. For the first time in years, William felt something in his empty chest shift, slow, unexpected, but real. He turned away before she could see how much it affected him. But Clara whispered softly, just loud enough for him to hear. "Thank you, Mr. Carson, you saved us." And William realized something he hadn't felt since the day he buried his wife. Something had changed. Not in the ranch. In him. And it had started the exact moment a single mother walked into his life, instead of a cook.